What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hang Ten with Quinn Kalani. I am your host, as always, and coming to you here in our first episode of the month of December, the final month of 2020. Exciting times. As always, we're going to do a bit of a Rams recap today, but before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to Hawaiian Airlines. For the smooth sailing. I am back in Sacramento, in California, and I'm enjoying myself in this very cool weather. More so, I'm enjoying this Rams victory today here on December 6th against the Arizona Cardinals in Scottsdale. Let's go ahead and get to it. Last week, Jared Goff had no way to put it. He had a real disappointing performance, real bad game. He responded. He came back this week after Coach Mive called it out and said he needs to take better care of the football, needs to make better decisions. Jared took it to heart. He applied it, and he came back, and he looked pretty good. 37 out of 47 for 351 yards, 7.5 yards per clip, 1 touchdown through the air. He also carried it in on a quarterback sneak to get a touchdown. Running the ball, we had some real good success running the ball today. Cam Akers led the way, 21 carries, 72 yards. 3.4 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Darrell Henderson was our big running play of the game. It was about a 38-yard run. He had 3 carries for 49 yards, 16.3 yards per clip, 1 touchdown. Receiving-wise, Jared spreading the ball around, of course, to our 2 top guys. Robert Woods, 10 receptions for 85 yards. Cooper Kupp, 8 for 73. Got to give big ups to our defense yet again, getting after it. Justin Hollins with a sack, Aaron Donald with a sack, Troy Hill with an interception return for a touchdown. That's his second touchdown in 2 consecutive weeks. Last week he had a fumble return for a touchdown. This week an interception. Now, what does this victory do? This victory puts us at 8-4, but most importantly, it puts us back in first place over the Seattle Seahawks. First place in the NFC West. The Seattle Seahawks did lose today to the New York Football Giants, which is humorous in itself. At some point, hopefully soon, people will start to talk about the Seattle Seahawks honestly. Now, you guys know me. You know I'm no fan of Seattle. I'm no fan of the Seahawks. I constantly shit on them. And, I exaggerate for the sake of exaggeration and also just to twist the knife a little bit. But in all honesty, this Seattle Seahawks team is the worst version I've seen in the entirety of the decade. This team, its fulcrum is Russell Wilson. And if you can disrupt that fulcrum, the entire team will collapse. Defense is historically bad for the Seattle Seahawks. Worst of the decade. Their running game, non-existent if it doesn't go through Russell Wilson. Tyler Lockett, serviceable. DK Metcalf has great potential to be a superstar in this league. But against top-tier defensive backs, he does struggle. Now, I didn't watch the New York Giants game versus the Seattle Seahawks, but if I had to guess, that the New York Giants got after Russell Wilson, put hats on him, put pressure on him. Seattle Seahawks offensive line, not good, no bueno. They fall to second place in the NFC West. Me personally, I think they're the worst team. Again, I think they're the worst team in the NFC West. I think they're behind the Arizona Cardinals, who lost today 38-28 to our Los Angeles Rams. And I think if the San Francisco 49ers were healthy, completely and utterly healthy, meaning they have Nick Bosa back on that defensive front, and Jimmy Garoppolo to be a better game manager than Nick Mullins, then I think it'd be clear-cut. Seattle's the worst team in the NFC West. But they do have the best offensive player in the NFC West in Russell Wilson. Without a doubt, Russell Wilson is the best offensive player in the NFC West. That makes up for so many holes, for so many gaps. I'm feeling really good about January. I'm feeling really good. I don't want to. I don't want to speak ahead of myself. I don't want to talk too soon. But I'm liking our Rams' chances going forward, man. I'm really digging them. Moving on from football. It was in the news recently. If you're not familiar with Claressa Shields may be the best female boxer. In my opinion, she's the best female boxer in the world right now. 2-time Olympian, multiple belt holder in female boxing. She has committed to a transition into MMA, and as of a post today on her Instagram, she's in Albuquerque, the 505 at Jackson Winklejohn MMA gym. Of course, one of the most renowned gyms in MMA. Home of Johnny Bones Jones, home of Holly Holm, who is most likely going to be instrumental in the development of Claressa Shields. It'll be really interesting to see where she goes. She did sign a multi-fight deal with the PFL, the Professional Fighters League, which is exclusively on ESPN+. What makes the PFL unique is that it's a tournament format, and tournament winner brings home $1 million at the end of the tournament. Now, Claressa Shields will not be participating in the tournament next year. She will be taking fights outside of the tournament, which is the way to go. She really needs to ease into the MMA game. Ease into it. Her striking credentials, her boxing credentials will far exceed anyone she will ever face. But she has a lot of ground to make up in the grappling department, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, sambo, judo. But it is not impossible. She is a young woman. She's about 25, I believe. So there is time. She has an athletic background that is somewhat unrivaled in combat sports and mixed martial arts. Now, we have had Olympians come through in women's MMA, predominantly, most notably Ronda Rousey. Also, Kayla Harrison in the PFL, who recently fought in Avitka. Won't be long before Kayla Harrison makes the jump to the UFC. So, it'll be interesting. I thought what was really interesting is some of the reasons why Claressa Shields cited that she would be transitioning to MMA. Now, she will maintain a boxing career. That is her plan. I'm a little skeptical that you can maintain both at a high level, but we'll see. But some of the reasons that she stated was that boxing was somewhat sexist towards women, that the women don't get paid well. I can't speak honestly to any of that. I can't profess to be a female boxing fan. To be 100% honest with you, I don't know anyone who is a female boxing fan. But I can name you 35, 40 female mixed martial artists. I think it's a powerful move. I think it's the right move. I think it's a great move, and it only bolsters not only Claressa Shields' name value, but also her resume and her martial arts legacy. Boxing is a martial arts. Martial arts as a whole. The implication is when you use that term, martial arts, mixed martial arts. One tends to think of more traditional Eastern martial arts, Taekwondo, Kung Fu, karate, things like that. Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, originating in Japan. But, America is not without its own martial arts. American freestyle wrestling, folk style wrestling, catch wrestling, Western boxing. America has carved out a place in the history of martial arts, and it's overlooked. But that's all the news we have sporting wise. Now I do want to touch on something else related to sports, but not current sports. It's been a damn near 10 months since this debuted, but I have finally watched The Last Dance, which centers around Michael Jordan and the '98 Bulls, but also chronicles Michael Jordan's career up to the '98 championship of the Chicago Bulls. Um, and it's fascinating. It is an amazing watch. Incredibly well documented. The interview portions are great. The stock footage is amazing. I mean, there is something to retro basketball that is, I don't know if it's missing today. I got to confess, I haven't watched a professional basketball game since Kobe retired. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a diehard, Kobe Bean Bryant guy. But there's just a feel to retro NBA. It's almost bizarre to say 90s to cite the 90s as retro MMA, retro MMA, excuse me, retro NBA. But I guess it is. The jerseys are different. I mean, at the time, they're still the Seattle Supersonics. Those Utah Jazz jerseys, the white ones with the Rocky Mountains with the blue shade on them that defines the outline of the mountains, the white mountains on the white jersey. Those are some sick jerseys. The Charlotte Hornets with the pinstripes. BJ Armstrong, come on. Dope jerseys. And who could forget the Seattle Supersonics? The red, green, and yellow. Pretty dope. I'm hoping it'd be cool if Seattle could get a professional basketball team to make up for the woes of their lackluster and disappointing NFL franchise. But I digress. If there is one thing, and it's not a complaint, it's more or less a desire. I'm watching The Last Dance, and understandably, it's all centered around Michael Jordan, his competitive attitude, which was borderline tyrannical, to be 100% honest with you, but his competitive nature, his desire to win at all costs, his drive, his motivation. It's all very inspiring stuff, and it's fascinating stuff. I was more interested in learning about the supporting characters. Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Phil Jackson, Steve Kerr. I had no idea that Steve Kerr's father was, the head of American University in Beirut, and was ultimately, tragically murdered in Beirut. It was fascinating. I wish that the documentary, or perhaps down the line, further expanded. I would like to learn more about the other members of the '98 Bulls. I was I think everyone in the '90s was a Bulls fan. I know I certainly was. I like Tony Kukoc, number 7 from Croatia. I was a Tony Kukoc kind of guy. I also like Michael Jordan. Scottie Pippen, of course, was great. And, of course, Phil Jackson. While he didn't, create the triangle offense, he certainly perfected it. Fascinating. It was a really, really interesting documentary series. I want to know more about the people around Michael. But it is what it is. It was still great nonetheless. Anyway, everybody, that is going to be our show for this week. First week of December. And yeah, as always, we got more content coming for you on Wednesday. The Closers Podcast episode, myself, Marco, and a special guest. On Friday, Marco will be closing out your week. You can follow us, as always, on Instagram at The Closers Podcast, Facebook at Closers Podcast. You can follow Marco on Instagram at Marco_avocado, AVA-cado. And you can follow myself on Instagram at Quintessential39. Besides that, as always, stay smart, stay safe, and God bless. I shall see you next week. Go Rams.